Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm doing something a little bit different today and it's traditional art. Arrtx reached out and wanted to see if I'd like to try their Simptap acrylic marker set, and I thought absolutely. I wanted to see this as a challenge since I haven't done traditional art in so long. The box I have here is their 24 saturated color set. They're waterproof with a brush tip, has strong coverage, and can be used on various surfaces. I'm just going to be drawing on paper, but have seen people use this brand of acrylics on plastics as well. So here are the colors included, and they're numbered accordingly. To use these markers, you have to shake really well first. Then you press the top of the marker to release the ink so that it saturates the brush. It's kind of neat to see this happen. Then you start using. It's as easy as that. You don't need to press the top again unless the brush becomes dry while in use. And if you need to shake it again, always put the cap back on to prevent ink splatters. I'm going to do a color swatch in my notebook so that you can see how vibrant each marker is. At first, I thought I wouldn't be able to come up with a drawing that uses such saturated colors like this, but includes some neutral colors that I can definitely work with. Very excited about the white marker though, because highlights really finish up a piece. And then this gold, oh my gosh, I was not expecting this. So I love how these markers don't bleed through the page. When I started using this sketchbook, I was nervous about drawing on the back side because I thought if I ever decided to color, it would show on the other side. But with these, I don't really have to worry about it that much. But onto the piece, I will actually color. My initial thought was to draw a building, and then I saw the greens. I thought, oh, Sumeru architecture. And who's our famous architect? Kaveh. So here he is with Merak overlooking his palace of Alcazar doing his birthday art pose. So I've always used these micron pens for lining, and not gonna lie, I do need to replace a couple because they're kind of drying out, but we are going to power through. So I'm just going to be lining my pencil drawing. I did realize along the way that I really didn't need to ink every line I drew because when I tested the markers in my notebook, they cover the black ink pretty well. Not entirely. You'll still be able to see through the paint a bit, but I'm pretty sure I'll need to go back to reline some areas. I guess depending on how clean I color, which the markers do have a fairly sharp brush tip, but we'll see since there are a lot of tight spaces in this drawing. Anyways, I edited various parts of this process, so if you just want to hang out while I ink away, or feel free to skip to the timestamp on the screen or in the description for when I start using the Arrtx markers. Alright, so I'm not going to outline all the plants and trees for now. I want to get color on here first before I decide if I want to or not. But I bought this mini desk vacuum off Amazon to easily pick up these eraser shavings. It's been a long time coming that I've wanted to get something like this because of the convenience. So before I would use a brush to sweep the shavings into my trash bin, but this is so much nicer and I know it won't get on my floors. I really like how this marker set came with this greenish turquoise color because a lot of this building is this color. So there's a few small areas that will be a little harder to color in, but the brush tip is 1 to 6 millimeters, and so it'll help getting into those small corners, except for when I'm coloring a little bit messy, which I am doing right now, but it's okay. I will end up relining everything with my black pen just to kind of clean everything up. And here is the silver marker. I do wish that this set came with a flat gray or maybe 2 tones of gray just so that I can use one just as a base color and then one for shading, because I end up using this silver to function as both. So as a flat shade, which I would normally use for a regular gray color, and then trying to use it to shade certain areas. Another thing I do wish that this set had was a little bit more variety in terms of the purples. There are a few shades of purples, but they're all quite dark. And so it was a little hard for one color to stand out against the other. And the same thing with the pinks. The 2 pinks were quite close in terms of tone. I don't use the black marker as much because it's a little strong, but I use it a little bit here and there. And then this darker green I thought was really nice, and so I'm using it as the base for the wall and then at the bottom of each column. And here you can see me using the silver not just as a base color but also to shade the walls a little bit. I colored the door a little bit messy, but again, I will clean everything up, don't worry. And yeah, so here I just put just a basic gray silver shade on the floor. The other thing was that there was only one red in here, so there wasn't like a variety of tones, which is fine. I'm going to make it work. What I did really love is this gold marker. I mean, I feel like I knew I was going to love it regardless, but it just exceeded my expectations. It's very opaque and the sheen of it is really nice. So coloring in Kaveh's sash with the blue, there were a couple tones for it. Throwing in the gold. And then, yeah, you can see that the markers show up pretty opaque on top of each other. So you can layer this pretty well, or even cover up some mistakes if you end up making any, which I know I did. And so I covered up quite a bit here and there, but maybe you might not be able to tell. So yeah, just shading here and there with the silver marker as best as I can. And then coloring in Kaveh's hand gloves. Again, using the gold marker. I really love this thing. And I'm glad Kaveh has gold all over. Putting in some really basic shading on his sash with this darker blue. I did color in his pants. I'll be relining it so that you can tell what the pattern is a little bit better. But yeah, so there was only one red, and so it still worked out because I ended up using a purple, and I think it looks fine. And I think it actually works. I mean, with shades, using a cooler tone. This looks really crazy, and it's going to continue to look really crazy the more I try to figure out how to color Kaveh's hair using this canary yellow. But I'm eventually going to try and figure out how to fix it later on. But I was using that yellow as a base and then trying to use the gold as like a shade, and then this very light brown to kind of use it as a little bit of a transition. And then, of course, I couldn't forget his darker brown tips of his hair. But the more I started to use it, it looked really muddy. And so I was trying to fix it with this sort of flesh tone, this really light flesh tone color. But then it started to look even crazier. And I was like, oh my God, I'm messing this up so bad. So I ended up just waiting until the paint could kind of dry a little bit more before I go over it with that light tone color. So in the meantime, I was like, I'm just going to work on merak and get that out of the way so that I can move on to something else while I wait for his hair to dry. But putting in some dark tones for the shading on the building, this was a fairly easy, pretty straightforward. And then I also wanted to just do a really simple texture to kind of show that it's a brick surface. And then I decided to use the black marker to just put a little bit of a thicker line under the roof, just so that it pops out a little bit more. Because I decided not to outline the plants, I'm just kind of freehanding painting these bushes. I ended up just painting the rest of the bottom half off camera. That includes the plants, the flowers, and the grass and things like that. It was just a lot easier for me to just power through those. And then here I am starting to just paint the trees in the background. Again, I didn't outline these in black, and they're just a rough pencil sketch. And so I'm just kind of freely painting and just putting in the various shades of green, which is why I really love this drawing for this set of markers, mostly for the greens. Like, there was a handful of different types of greens that I could use in order to paint something like this, like the trees and things like that, and have quite a bit of depth to them. And so it may not look like it makes any sense right now, but I feel like I was just kind of going about it and just painting where I felt some of the tones would look nice, and a little bit of the brighter green to pop some of the areas of the tree. And then I feel like it all starts to make sense once I put in the branches and then putting in a little bit of shading in terms of this darker brown. So yeah, on the other side is the larger area where I'm going to be putting in a few more trees. So same process. I'm not going to be filling in the entire area with the lighter green this time. I'm just going to sort of gradually layer it until I get into the darker colors, and then just start filling in here and there where I feel like the shapes might look nice with a darker color, or using this lighter green to highlight certain areas. And then here's the other tree right below it. So again, same process. And then it all starts to make sense once I put in the branches, the tree trunk, and stuff like that. It feels like the most satisfying part of drawing trees is figuring out where branches might pop through the leaves, and then yeah, just coming up with interesting shapes. That's honestly what I was trying to do here. Again, shading on the tree, so I really only had two colors, so the lighter brown and then the darker brown. And then here I'm just using a white gel pen to kind of put in some white flowers on the bushes. And then I was looking at it and felt like I just wanted to color in the white areas of the background because it just felt like it needed it. I mean, I wasn't sure which color to use, so I ended up just using this one of the darker blues. And so here is the full drawing. I really had a lot of fun experimenting with these markers. So I really hope that you enjoyed seeing the process from once I had my sketch done into the lining process and then into the coloring process and what my thoughts were along the way. So do check out these markers. I have all the links down in the description. Thanks again to Arrtx for sending this set over, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.